I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is the Readathon. And I am here with a tremendously special guest. Special guest, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, geez. Crime Writers On fan, fellow podcaster, Janet Varney. I have guested on Crime Writers On, but this is my first time on the Readathon. But I'm an avid listener to that as well. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this getting even more meta than it already has with Maggie on, because this morning I was listening to your Maggie episode and I was like, wait, I can't talk to Rebecca about talking to Maggie, about Maggie talking about you talking to Mel. Like that's several layers deep. That's Inception level deep.
It is Inception level deep. I like it. So what do you think? I mean, you don't have to just we're going to go deeper than this, but I'd love to know, when you started following this case or listening to this case, me talking about it, what do you think? Where are you at?
So this won't surprise anybody. I mean, I also do some co-hosting work on Truth and Justice with Bob Ruff. He is a huge wrongful convictions advocate and works on cases of his own and has gotten people out of prison. But
what does he think about Karen?
You know what? Oh God, Rebecca, they haven't been following it, and it makes me crazy. I just have to sit and talk about it in the chat, which means that I say something and then there's a lag, and then someone who's on our live stream will weigh in, and I'll be like, okay, stop everything. I need to respond to Kathy because she just finally responded to my thing about Karen Read.
Okay.
And then Brandon isn't following it either. So
back to you then.
So back to me. So I am. I absolutely believe that she's factually innocent. Of course, like many cases of potential wrongful conviction. Thank God it didn't go this way. I just spend a lot of time feeling puzzled about how anybody could think that there isn't reasonable doubt, no matter where you land on thinking it's possible. Side note: I don't think it's possible. That's one of those head scratchers where, we don't need any more reminders that people are so divided on so many things in the country. But sometimes when stuff like this comes up in legal cases, that's sort of what you think is oh, God, which is why it's been so interesting to hearing you talk about people who fall on different political sides, but who are united in this.
It's incredible.
So then it shifts. It shifts from okay, I'm so glad that you and I don't agree on some politics, but we agree on this. But then now my puzzlement just switches over to people who think that she's guilty, and then I'm like, I can't wrap my head around that. I just can't. I cannot see it. Yeah. And there are other cases where I have big questions about reasonable doubt, and Richard Allen and the Delphi case is extremely troubling to me. That doesn't mean I think he is not guilty. I just think it's very troubling, and there's a lot of things that went wrong in that investigation as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to die on a hill for guilty or not guilty on that.
Right. I feel the way about the Alec Murdaugh case. I feel like that his trial was a shit show. His trial was not a fair trial. Yeah. It was a total shit show. And the prosecution did not make a great case generally, but then they had this court clerk who's secretly writing a book about it or some shit. And also the glee people felt when he was convicted made me so uncomfortable because I thought we knew better than to do that these days. But I think probably did it. Probably shouldn't have been convicted.
Yeah, and it's hard. Those are hard conversations to have, and they're hard questions to ask yourself. And sometimes I just feel like on both sides, nobody wants to exist in a place of gray area. Nobody wants to. It's important for everyone to have a hardcore opinion now. You have to be certain, whether you can back that up or not. As long as you're just really forceful about what you say, no one should mess with you. And ultimately, even something I'm positive of, I still leave room to be wrong if someone can give me an actual reason.
That's how I feel. Give me a reason. Don't just say your gut feeling or you feel like or you think. Tell me why you think. It's to me, a learner, someone who's interested in learning more, is always going to have my ear, even if we disagree. Yeah. And this is how I feel about Turtle Boy. We have something we can build on now, even though I look at stuff he's written in the past, I look at his tweets and I'm like, oh, dear God. I understand why some people hate him, but I've met him, I've talked to him, I text with him occasionally, and he is he talked about me on one of his shows because I said something about Dr. Wolf, if you're a woman, you probably instantly don't trust Dr. Wolf. And he said, I've never been a woman, so I wouldn't know, but this person I trust said that this is how it made her feel, so blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so to me that signals he's a learner. And I just think that there is, when you meet people who are very different from you, but they're curious and they want to learn, like it opens a door.
Well, let me ask you this, because I, like some of your other guests, I have not followed anything on social media really aside from like Bob and Ali Mata, who are defense attorneys who have very strong opinions about that, and Andrea Burkhart, people who are sort of fall on that side. Again, not because I'm not open-minded about hearing people who disagree. The problem is that if I ever go to listen to anyone who disagrees, they're just not being intellectually honest.
Yeah, it's
and I just can't stay for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to help them or me, in my opinion of them. If I'm like, well, now that's not true. So why am I listening?
The prosecutors just had a tweet where I think it was Brett probably tweeted a picture of the front of The Great Gatsby and said, I'm reading this to kick off the summer about a woman who killed a man with her car and got away with it. And I'm like, I guarantee these are the people who, they said it with Adnan Syed, they've said it with tons of people who say it is proof of guilt when a jury convicts somebody.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
But then they'll completely ignore these jurors who are now coming out publicly and saying, I didn't know, or I thought it might be manslaughter until I saw the evidence and that changed my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is what I was going to ask you about. So my point about that was there are some ways in which I feel like I know the case very well, and certainly you are a huge part of that. There are other ways in which I have been totally in the dark. And even the days that I listened to the trial while I was doing other things, I couldn't just sit and watch. So there were certain witnesses where I was like, I still couldn't tell you what they look like, but I know what their voice sounds like. Until a couple of days ago, thought Turtle Boy was like a boy. Not a boy, but I was like, oh, he's like 20.
Oh, gosh.
Like, I genuinely was like, oh, whoever this Turtle Boy is, they call him Turtle Boy. So obviously he's going to be some like young whippersnapper who's just a provocateur. And then I saw him and I was like, oh.
He's a man.
Oh, he's a full
He's a short but
man.
muscular man. His name is named after a statue in Worcester, which is called the Turtle Boy statue.
Totally.
Which
and
looks
again,
like a
and I knew
boy
that.
fucking a
But again, I was like, no one would call themselves Turtle Boy if they were a full grown man. I don't have an opinion about him either way, other than, yes, I have heard from multiple people who very much appreciate what he brought to this case, that there are plenty of things that they don't agree with. But what my question to you is, like, again, and if we're talking about Twitter is a place for provocateurs. Yeah. Twitter is a place for the would-be Howard Sterns of the world, which is to say, do you feel like he is the type of person who likes to get a rise out of people and maybe exaggerating his points of view? Again, I'm not condoning that.
Yeah.
But there are some people that if you get them alone, they're like, oh, I don't really feel that way. But like, I got a bunch of likes from it and people retweeted me and like, I'm just about building my brand. You know what I mean?
I think that could be some of it. He's very, very good at building audience. Like, that's a skill he has. And this case has been really good for him. And I wouldn't think favorably about that, except for the fact that he has earnestly uncovered things and provided evidence and witnesses that were real. And it's like a lot of his reporting comes from a place where he's outraged, and so he just pursues that.
Right.
But he's weirdly mellow when you meet him. He's like super calm and super like kind of sweet. And I would imagine that some of his stuff is like gadfly provocateur stuff. I would imagine that. I will ask him that if I ever interview him again. That would be a good question to ask him.
Yeah. It also sounds like, I mean, what you just described sounds like the way other people describe some of the other players in this case, whether they be on the defense or prosecution side. Like, oh, they're the sweetest person, but then they sort of come like teeth bared because it stirred up so much, loyalty, anti-loyalty, don't come and fuck with me, don't fuck with my family, that kind of thing.
It's so
where
ugly,
it does seem, but in some ways it does seem very East Coast to me. Like, I just don't feel like you would see that, I just didn't grow up around that really.
It's very Boston. This is the most Boston thing that's ever Boston. Like,
it does.
People in Boston are easily outraged. People in Boston are pains in the ass. They're loud. Sorry if you're listening and you're in Boston, but you probably agree. I've heard from some of you and you've said you agree. And, I've said it on the show before that Karen Reed probably reminds a jury of like a bunch of women they know when they hear those voicemails. Yeah. So the hater rate is also very Boston. Like, it's all I mean, look how they talk about the Yankees. I grew up in New York, and I never heard anybody talk about the Red Sox in any way, except for like, oh, the Yankees beat the Red Sox. Yeah. But they talk about the Yankees as if the Yankees are thinking about them all the time. Like, that's how they are. Yeah.
Which is a little bit San Francisco and LA. LA's like, I love San Francisco. And San Francisco's like, no, let me tell you all the reasons that LA is the worst. And that's why we're rivals. And you're like, no, I've lived in both cities for many, many years. And there's just that's a one-sided thing for sure.
Yep.
In the case of stuff like this, too, you know, I mean, culturally, it's just, I mean, there are some families and cultures where it just it seems like you're sort of incentivized, or that there's this catharsis that happens if you just blow up. Again, not condoning it at all, but this sense of like, oh, we all just scream at each other and then like it's okay afterwards because we all know, we get it. And then from the outside, people are like, oh my God, they're going to.
But some of them are really legitimately bad actors. They've weaponized the law enforcement agencies.
That's terrifying.
It's wild. And, you know, what I started doing a few months ago, it's the best decision I ever made. I started doing it over the summer when I started getting really, really hot with all these like sock puppets and crazy accounts and death threats, all this stuff. Ugh. I started either responding with something like very short, like you seem nice, and then I muted every single person that I saw who was anti-Karen Read and who was pro-Karen Read and nutty, like just mute. And it's just better for my mental health because I'm very tempted. I'm one of the people who's very tempted to engage because I'm like, let me tell you exactly why you're wrong. But I'm like, that's not why they're here. They're not here to actually have a conversation. And when I realized that, I was like, okay, this platform is not for me anymore. But this is where I'm getting all the good dirt. So I kind of have to still be here.
I know it's still living there. There isn't really another place that it lives that is as up to date, even with like, you know, things happening here. Like if I smell smoke, I still go to Twitter. Like I don't, and I have to like carefully log in and try to remember my password. I mean, you know, which is the only reason that I still have something up there. You have to search for
what you're looking for because it gives you the wrong stuff all the time, right? Like,
exactly. But it's definitely a place where that kind of stuff is happening. Okay, I have some things that I wrote down because I keep up with you and everything you're talking about on the Readathon. I don't want you to feel like you have to rehash a bunch of stuff.
I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Well, then I also have. Again, I really, really can't emphasize enough that I understand that a person lost their life. And if Karen had been convicted, I wouldn't feel as kind of lighthearted about this.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what happened to him. And I really hope that nothing happened to him other than that he slipped and fell, or at worst that he was attacked by a dog and that a human person didn't do anything, and that he tragically, I mean, this is all very tragic. Let me just make sure I think everyone who listens to this knows.
But what was interesting, I just want to say one thing. All of the man on the street interviews done with reporters, with people in the crowd outside the courthouse, to a person, every single person said like they're thrilled she's out. We need to find the real killers because he deserves better. Like everybody was they all felt bad for the O'Keeffes.
Oh, I feel terrible for the O'Keeffes. And to your point, you've been I completely agree with you about trying to change the mind of a victim's family who have been championed by the prosecution and comforted by the prosecution and reassured by the prosecution. That is inextricable at this point. Like, and I don't blame them at all.
Nope.
100%. All that being said,
except for Paul O'Keefe, who's really a lech. But anyway,
well, agree. I mean, the hard evil stare is not appropriate. But I did come up with, and I know that you did this on, I believe it was not the Readathon. I believe it was maybe a Crime Writers After Show. But you did do a little quiz.
Okay.
I came up with, it's definitely not a quiz. It's what I would call a case yearbook. Ooh. Where I have some questions I want to ask you that are definitely lighthearted and more about the attorneys and kind of personality types and stuff like that. So I thought maybe that would be fun. But before we get into that, and I don't mean to take this over, I just thought, I want to do something fun with Rebecca because she's been like covering, like this is not going to be a conversation she has on Court TV. Probably she won't talk about this unless we talk about it, so maybe it'll be fun. But
I just taped Crime Writers and I'm super tired, so I love it that you're driving.
Okay, good. All right. So this, I think you'll enjoy it. But before we get into the kind of fun stuff, I did want to comment again. I know we're getting very inside because I freshly listened to your episode with Maggie, but I had not thought about the idea of needing to double down on going back into court with this case to postpone potentially, and I know it's speculation, that's fine, but to postpone potentially something happening with the feds.
Yes.
Like chilled me to the bone.
Yeah, it happens all the time where they postpone a thing because they step out of a jurisdiction. And Alan Jackson has kind of hinted that it might not be over in one of the interviews he gave. So
yeah, allegedly over does not mean over.
I mean, they could say we're finished our investigation into John O'Keefe's death. Doesn't mean there's not any indictments coming.
Oh, 100%. Especially if there are tendrils that extend beyond this specific case, you can be done with the investigation of his death and be wildly unfinished with everything that surrounds it.
Right.
So I will be very interested to see what happens. And if it starts to tip towards like, wow, it's starting to look like that could have been what was going on and that he was just using kind of everyone as a pawn, principally Karen, but like his own office, the family, like all of that is just despicable. So Michael Morrissey, for your sake, I really hope that's not what's up and I'm going to be paying attention. I just wanted to say, again, I thought every conversation you've had about Officer Dever, I have listened very carefully to. That was definitely a testimony that I listened to in live as it was happening. And I thought it was interesting because you and Maggie were saying that you thought that, they closed ranks and that she's okay. But I agree with Maggie and maybe Mel and you that like, I felt like she was, for as unpleasant as I feel she was as a witness, not as a human being, but as a witness, I felt like so much of what she was saying, I almost could interpret as like a cry for help.
Yeah.
It really felt like when you say on the stand, what I say here, my job entirely depends on what I say on the stand. To me, that's a person who is telegraphing, hey guys, I'm going to tell you what I was told to tell you, not what happened.
Yeah. And now it was actually very smart if you think about it, if she is worried and afraid, because now she's made it so they can't retaliate because she said in public. And I think what she thought she was saying or trying to say was, I don't want to end up on that list of untrustworthy cops that can never testify in cases again, because those people are never promoted. So I just have to tell the truth. Like that's why her job depends on it. But she's also now insulated herself from retaliation because she said out loud that her job depended on it. So now if she's fired or something, not promoted, she's going to have an excellent lawsuit, like an excellent one.
Even just being called into the commissioner's office with no attorney is like
terrifying.
Whether they wanted to fire her or not, I don't know. I mean, I would see her not being fired for this, but I could see them being like, bide our time. To your point, stick her somewhere where we don't have to think about her, and then find cause that has nothing to do with this and is far enough away from this that we can give her the finger, and hopefully no one will notice and call attention to the fact that she wasn't good enough at saying, whoops, I created a false memory. I created a false memory.
In good
it's
faith.
So sad.
I created a false memory in good faith.
Oh, it's so sad in good faith. I mean, what a mess. What a mess.
Yep.
Oh, anyway, so
one of the jurors said her testimony was one of their turning points.
Oh, yeah.
Because the juror thought, like, this person should not be walking around among civilians with a gun, was the quote.
Well, that's very true. And very true across the board for so many of the police. And I love the point that you made, too, because I don't think I'd heard you make it before. But it was something that had crossed my mind as well, which is like, where are all the cops in uniforms? Yeah. Like, who sit behind and glare? Like, that's a thing, isn't it? So I'm glad that you brought that up because it seems very strange to me.
It is very strange. Where are all the cops in uniform who want to display the blue line unity in court?
Yeah.
They're nowhere.
It gives me a lot of hope. It made me feel better. Like, okay, maybe I don't have to be as terrified as I frankly still am.
Some departments would pay. They pay them to go to funerals. I don't know if you know that, but those cop funerals where you see them all, they get paid for that. There's actually like a salary pool for getting paid to show up at funerals. So like Brian Albert got paid for going to that funeral in New York before he came home from that.
Okay.
And so I think there are some departments that also would pay for time if they show up at a trial to support another cop.
That would totally make sense. That would not be surprising at all. So yeah, that was a great point. So just to talk about Bev and Hank for a second, and I know we've chewed through this a lot, but in your opinion, because I know how you stand on Bev and because I think I know how you stand on Hank, maybe those will be two different answers. But when things happen where we all say after the fact, and this is something Bob and Allie say all the time, like, oh my God, if the defense had done that, Cannoni would have tore him a new one. How aware do you think, first, Bev is about the fact that it's a tremendous double standard, and B, how aware in the moment do you think Hank is when he knows he's like, how well...
He's 100% aware.
He's literally having the thought in his mind, I know the defense couldn't get away with this because I am a defense attorney. I know that they couldn't get away with it, and I don't give a shit.
And I'm going to ask for it anyway. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we got a real good look into Hank Brennan's brain with some of his cross-examination of witnesses, which one of his techniques is gaslighting. You know, his attempt to say, well, who told you we were trying to recreate the circumstances of our theory with Judd Welcher's test? That's gaslighting.
That's wild.
He gaslit Officer Barrows. He got Officer Barrows to say something he didn't say and then said, tell me where you said that. He did that over and over and over again. He is a brilliant gaslighter. He really tripped some people up with that. But the witnesses he couldn't trip up with that were the ones who have testified a million other times. Like he's like those two women, La Posada and Russell. Yeah. They would never be tripped up by that. The ARCA guys would never be tripped up by that. Lucky Loughran, he tried to trip up Lucky Loughran with some gaslighting, and he couldn't because Lucky Loughran is like, he's a very basic person. Like I don't think he's wired for lying. Like he's just such a basic, literal kind of person that he's like, sure. So you'd ask him a question, then he'd be like, what are you talking about? Like he literally didn't know. So he was not gaslightable. So yeah.
I think I would be gaslightable.
And Bev was gaslit.
I hate to say it.
Bev was gaslit into thinking that the defense was untrustworthy. She was gaslit by Hank Brennan when he convinced her that there was something nefarious going on with ARCA. She believed it because he implanted a false memory of the first trial that she then believed was true, and then she believed they lied to her. So I think that was a real turning point.
So Bev favoring the prosecution, if in her mind she even thought of it that way, was still her being like, my responsibility is to keep things balanced. And if the defense is up to trickery, then I have to be harsher with them because I can't stand for that, even if what that translates to is the prosecution is doing something that's totally unethical.
Right.
But you think you've got your finger on the scale to balance it out? Question mark, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I don't buy that she got orders to get a conviction for Karen Reed.
Oh, I agree. I agree entirely. I think she would have been better at it had she had the goal of doing that instead of just sort of a general ineptitude.
It was so clumsy. She was very, very clumsy. And she does need to do better if she remains a judge. But I bet she's going to retire very soon. I really hope she does.
Same. Honestly, I really hope she does because she is just another example of a judge that reminds you, we are constantly reminded, like, judges are human beings. They get hungry. They get bored. They're thinking about going to the Cape.
Yeah.
Or whatever other reason.
Some of her such basic rulings, which we all just have ended up getting used to and exploring, were bananas. The gag order on the lawyers was bananas. What case have you seen where a lawyer can't walk out on the courthouse steps and talk to reporters about how it went that day? That almost never, like the gag order on lawyers, this is not a RICO case.
Right.
That's putting witnesses in jeopardy of being murdered. This is a murder case where lawyers routinely talk to the media on behalf of their client during the trial. And she put them in a position where they had to put the client in front of the media to talk about the case, which is really bad.
No, it's really bad. And again, there are defense attorneys who are totally gross and slimy, as there are all lawyers. We're all human beings. That is a profession that I think can attract slimier people, just like Hollywood. It definitely paves the way for slimy people in a way that many professions don't. So you have to sort of be on guard about that. But at the end of the day, you just talked about it with Mel, you talked about it with Maggie. The mainstream media is still favors law and order, still favors a prosecution. Those are the people, the police and the prosecutors are the ones who get the story out first. And the most divisive public cases tend to be ones where the defense attorneys also try to get a story out there because it's the only way to end up with possibly a balanced jury pool or possibly a sense of, public judgment, not just being like, well, the story I heard was blank.
Yeah.
And then you get to the trial, and it's like, well, I already heard the story 50 times.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Yeah.
I'm never going to accept your version,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So making that impossible was incredibly unfair. And, there were so many examples of that. Okay, good. All right. I got my answers on that. Where do you think The Rock is today?
I am going to be obsessed with this Rock. I really, if I get the opportunity to talk to one of the lawyers ever, I am going to ask them about where they think The Rock came from. So apparently the homeowners who own the house now are pro Karen Read. They learned about the case actually after they bought the house, which was interesting.
Oh, wow.
And so they didn't do it. I mean, some people think they did as a misguided attempt to be like, oh, we had this rock, so we're going to put it back out to, but I don't think they would, and I don't think they did. I mean, they let defense investigators inside their garage to take pictures, and they've now been leaked. I will always want to know where that rock came from, because it looks like, if you've seen it, like it looks like there's a fake blood stain on it. I'm not saying that's definitely what it is.
Yeah,
but it was made to look as if somebody had fallen and hit their head.
I kind of can't. I understand that there might be a third uninterested party that's just a prankster, or it was just a mind.
They could sell that rock on eBay.
They could definitely sell the rock on eBay, but it's really hard not to think, wasn't that something written on it? Wasn't like Albert written on it? Yeah. So then why would the Alberts do that? It's very bizarre.
It's so bizarre.
It's very bizarre. Okay, so we don't know where the rock is, but maybe it'll turn up on eBay.
Hopefully.
And then just for my own, because I listened to the closing argument, I actually listened to both of them twice. And I feel like I know the answer to this, but and this goes also for people that you talk to on court TV and stuff who believe that Karen is guilty. Is anyone really reconciling the time problems with when they first said it happened and what the phone data said, and then when Karen got back to John's house? Is anyone really reconciling that, who believes that Karen is guilty, or is that just one of those things that just kind of doesn't get addressed? It's like something else takes its place. Because in the closing argument, I just don't feel like that was there at all. It was just like, we have the data, and it was like, what data?
Yeah, the data that's disputed. We have this disputed data.
Yeah. I mean, does anyone feel like they can comfortably say, again, from a reasonable doubt perspective, if they're so sure that Karen Read is guilty, how are they explaining that to you or to someone else in a rational way?
Well, they just say she must have driven really fast back to John O'Keefe's house, and this brilliant guy found this real thing, and we've all been told the fake thing. But I'll say it until somebody proves different. I firmly believe. First of all, I don't think that was the right key cycle. I really don't. Also, I think something had already happened to John by 1232. I think it happened in the late 1220s or mid 1220s. And no, I don't think they'll ever reconcile it. This will always be the jury got it wrong for them. We had these facts, and the jury didn't get it. But the bottom line is, she connected to his Wi-Fi at 1236. She was gone by 1232.
Yeah, absolutely.
End of conversation. That should be the case killer. That, and I wish it had come out during Argus testimony, that and the diffuser would have made her light black if it had been missing.
Oh yeah,
that's a case killer.
That's huge. That's huge. Okay, well, they just never did. They just never did. I'm so willing to have that discussion, and we always say we're willing to have a discussion. If you think you've figured something out that no one else could about Adnan Syed, that somehow makes it make sense in any kind of way, beyond spiritual or theoretical, in an actual way that presents a timeline that makes it possible, given the known facts, I'll hear you out.
Validity evidence, all that
I'll be
stuff.
uneasy as hell about it, but I will hear you out, because I would, but it's not there. It's just not there unless it's being lied about.
Unlike the Adnan Syed case, where a person who believes he's guilty for reasons could say the lividity doesn't match because the police got their theory wrong, but he still did it. That's very common. Where they might not have exactly, and Hank did that in his closing. We don't know exactly what happened, but we have a good idea.
I cannot believe how many things he said. We don't know.
It was crazy.
We don't know.
It was crazy. Unlike that, John O'Keefe has dog bites on his arm.
That
to me is that's Kevin's case killer. Kevin is there is literally no explanation for that other than him being attacked by a dog. He's got dog bites on his arm, and there's no explanation. And they wouldn't let Irini Scorti-Bello testify to that, because she's not a quote dog bite expert or whatever. But
because there isn't one.
Yeah, because they say there isn't one. Yeah, they had another expert that I really wish they'd been able to bring in, Garrett Wing, but she got off. So I'm not going to say they did anything wrong.
But they maintained all the way through that was pieces of taillight that caused those scratches, right?
Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, in all different directions on his arm.
Yeah. Well, but the Adnan thing is like, again, the people who continue to iterate like he's guilty are still just pointing to old bad facts.
Right.
Like,
or old bad facts or stereotypes or, or statistics. This is what happens in a lot of cases. And there's a case that I won't talk about here because it's so controversial that like, I don't want to get hate mail about it. A thing that people say is like, blank % of women are killed by their partners or ex-partners. And I'm like, that may be true. Blank % of dead women were killed by their partners. And that may be true, but doesn't mean it happened this time.
100%. Would you like me to ask you some questions for the Karen Read case yearbook?
Yes, please.
And you can get as specific or as you can explain your reasoning, or you can leave it and just let people wonder why this person is your answer. But I'm just going to read you in the order I was thinking of them, not necessarily in any other particular order. Someone from the case that we would all know from the case that you would most want to read you a bedtime story.
David Yannetti.
Okay.
I love David Yannetti. He's just the sweetest, like most gracious, lovely guy. And like he's probably like above, like he's like unimpeachable. Like he would never make a move. Like he's just like, he's the real thing in my opinion.
Yeah. Agree. Great answer. Okay. Who would you most like to arm wrestle?
Jen McCabe.
Okay.
She'd probably beat me, but I'd be right next to her face and I'd be able to look into her eyes.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Great answer. Who would you like to physically defend you in a brawl? Not condoning brawls. When it's going to happen, who would you like to have physically defend you?
Probably Alan Jackson. He's jacked. He's muscular.
Aren't they all kind of jacked?
They're all in super good shape. They're all in super good shape, but like
it's a good way to if you have that discipline. I mean, it's not to say that there can't be a person who is more quote unquote out of shape and also be an astonishingly good attorney, but there's a certain type of character that you sort of understand the idea that like why they're so good at this.
The discipline,
probably probably why, and probably they get that endorphin high and actually are sort of thinking and have a great idea while they're on the treadmill.
Exactly.
And so it just keeps reinforcing itself.
But I do want to amend my answer slightly because if I really wanted to be defended and have that person like definitely have something bad happen to them, it would be Brian Albert. That dude is scary and he beats people up all the time.
This is why I said it, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a person that person does not have to be your friend. Nope. It can just be the person you send in.
Brian or Colin
take
Albert.
The damage.
There's two fighters. Yeah, one of those two. But probably Brian because he's also big and very scary looking.
Yeah, and just like at no time would have any moral compulsion to
He'd
stop.
He'd poke that person in the eyes, kick him in the balls, and punch him in the face. He'd do all of it.
Bless. Okay. Have an intimate dinner with. This does not mean in any way romantic. It just means you're entirely giving each other the attention and nothing is distracting.
Probably Karen Read.
Right.
I really would love to hear more about her journey becoming a member of the legal team. Like, that's so interesting to me.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I love that seeing inside the rooms. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'd probably want to hear more. I'd probably want to have dinner with her.
Great.
I'd pay.
Great. Can't disagree. And it's on you. Your treat. She could probably use a couple more free dinners considering what she's out for this defense twice. Who would you most want to host an HG TV show with?
Oh, damn. That's a good one. Daniel Wolf from ARCA.
There you go.
So camera ready, so earnest. We know he can build things.
Oh, I like this.
We're going on Rock the Block together, me and Daniel Wolf.
All right. That was my next question was like, what style of show are we talking about? Okay. I dig it. All right. Who would you most like to listen to an audiobook narrated by?
Oh, how is this different than the story? That's an interesting question.
Bedtime story is just like a little story to put you to sleep. Audiobook, you may not want the same vibe of like, oh, this is so soothing, I'm falling to sleep.
Yeah.
It could.
Karina Kalakithis. She had a lovely voice. She was a very short witness. She came on for the defense. She was friendly with Karen. She saw her in the bar that night, and she and John were super getting along. And she said, "I've never seen that before." When John kissed Karen, she's like, "I've never seen a boyfriend do that before." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so sad, Karina." But she had a lovely like timbre to her voice.
I'm gonna go back and listen to her again so I can hear her.
I liked her. She also had a little Boston,
Yeah, little attitude
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
if you're going to survive in Boston. Okay, great answer.
You're making me realize, by the way, how much I know about this fucking
No,
case.
that's what I was going to say. When you brought up Kalakithis, I was like, okay, this is fun
She's
for
a deep
everyone
cut.
who's wondering. That's a great deep cut. Great deep cut. Okay, this is a little weird, but like, who would you like to send to have a meal with someone you don't like?
Oh, Shannon Burgess.
Okay, great.
That guy, man. Hard to look at, hard to listen to, hard to believe, all of it. He is like the trifecta.
What's so funny is that the very next thing that I have written, and I absolutely did not tie these two things together in my brain at all. Like, there's no way I would have thought you would have said that, is who would you most want to falsify your resume?
Hank Brennan.
Great.
He'd probably do a much more effective job at it. He'd gaslight all future employers.
Yeah,
into thinking
people would be like, I just have a question
qualified.
about this. And he'd be like, do you have one question or two questions? Which one is it?
100%. You just nailed it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Great. Who would you like to be your stylist for a day?
Whoever did Jen McCabe to make her look totally different.
There you go. There you go.
She looked totally different on the stand.
No, she looked totally
like
different.
on the 2020 thing last night, she looked like her regular self again. They made her look like a completely different person.
Interesting.
They made her look young. They made her look fresh. I want whoever did that.
Do you think that this is all, again, this is just like fanciful speculation. She's a human being and she's a mother. I'm not saying she's a monster in any way, shape, or form.
Mothers are monsters too, Janet.
Is she the kind of person who would say, why do I need this makeover? I'm fine the way I am. And someone else sort of said, like, why don't you just let us da-da-da-da?
I think they had somebody. I mean, she has an attorney. Her attorney probably has like a witness coach or whatever that they work with. I think that she probably got a recommendation to lighten up her hair a little.
Yeah.
So it was like more reflective and fresh looking. She definitely had her makeup professionally done. Like she didn't do that.
Yeah.
I think someone gave her the advice. Yeah.
Sad for all of us women that is something that we, quote unquote, have to think about more every day anyway. And then imagine the scrutiny of being under. I mean, if you ever had a doubt about it, just hearing people talk about Marcia during the OJ trial was like, oh, this is our culture. Oh, shit.
It's wild.
Oof.
And it's funny because I think about all the effortlessly beautiful women in this case, like Heather Maxson, freaking gorgeous.
Stunning.
Karina Kolakithis, gorgeous. Caitlin Dever, really beautiful.
Yeah, lovely.
They just look like they look. And I'm just like, there are so many attractive people sort of as side characters in this case.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think that's really interesting. The idea of whether someone else tells you that you need a makeover for this one thing you're doing versus like, this is the new me forever. So I'm very intrigued and interested. And I kind of respect her more for being like, I was fine. They made me do a thing. I was good. Now I'm back to being my sport mom or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Kevin helps me for TV stuff. He's always like, make sure your hair goes back, make sure you're wearing something dark. I just got a blazer that my only disappointment about not going on Court TV tonight, because it was canceled, is that I can't wear my new blazer that I just got.
You're going to get, but they'll call you back.
He was like, oh, that would be great for Court TV.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've made so many bad decisions when I've done stuff on camera. And
wearing
no one has
white
told
was
me.
my worst decision.
You just don't.
It changes the white balance and the lights. Like, it's no good. It makes you look
It's a
kind
whole
of
thing.
sick. Yeah.
It's a whole thing. Who do you think would be most surprised about the way they sort of generally came off to the public in the court of public opinion?
I'm going to say Gallagher, the cop from Canton, who talked about being creative with using the leaf blower and that the cups were great and that the bags were essentially the same as, because he really, unlike a lot of other people in this case, I think he 100% believed everything he said.
Yeah, that's a perfect example because you're like, oh, buddy. Oh, buddy.
You sound dumb.
Yeah, well, that's a really good one. That's a really, really good one. Okay, great. All right. Who actually cares the least about the case but had to be involved in it? I'm concerned that the answer is Bev Cannoni, but I want to hear if you have someone else.
That is the first person that came to mind. But I don't think she cares the least because she had feelings.
Yeah.
Probably Ryan Nagel.
Okay.
Ryan Nagel was just like, you could tell he didn't want to be there, but he didn't throw off any attitude like, you have to drag me in. Like, he willingly came in. He had a lawyer in the courtroom. He was fine. But you can tell, like, he's completely moved on. He's not even dating Heather anymore. Like, they both moved on.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
Heather was a great witness, by the way. I thought Heather was a very, very good, strong witness.
Oh, for sure.
They both were, actually, because they're just like regular people who used to date. And it was like very intriguing. Like, what happened? Like,
I know. Thank you for both letting us just get the tiniest peek that wasn't enough into your dynamic.
Exactly.
Most likely or first to be to write a book about this.
Oh, easy. Judd Welcher.
Ew. Will not read.
Can you imagine working with that guy?
No, I refuse to imagine it.
He is the guy who repeats what you said as if it's a new idea. He is that guy. He's the guy who's like, I told people to do it and they just did it. Like, that guy is a douche, and he would 100% try to write a book about it.
And he would center himself. Like, the book would be about him
How
at the center
I
of this.
Proved Karen Read's Guilt by Judd Welcher.
The title needs to be like, it wasn't just about the paint or something like. Welcher. Great. Okay. Which two people would you most want to be a fly on the wall for their conversation?
Oh, this is actually really easy. Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts.
Yeah.
And then I would transform back into a person and tell everyone what the fuck they said.
Yeah. Yeah, the fly machine works in this scenario. It's not like the Jeff Goldblum thing where he ultimately is a weird
inside
freak.
Out. I get all weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of Jeff Goldblum, I had to watch Independence Day today for work because we're doing this movie series on Civics 101 about civics overlap in certain films, and one of the producers wanted to do Independence Day. How did we not realize in the 90s that Jeff Goldblum was super hot? Like, he was so hot, and he was always cast as like the nerdy side guy. And I'm like, dude, that guy is a snack. He's hot.
Yeah. And still is.
Yeah.
I met him. I was programming comedy for Outside Lands, this music festival in San Francisco. And he came with his Mildred Schnitzer Orchestra. So he does this whole like cabaret act and plays piano, and is, of course, like a piano prodigy, I guess.
Love that.
He might be the most charismatic person I've ever met. And I've met a lot of charismatic people. Like, I met him, I felt like I was the only person on earth. Like,
love that.
You know what I mean? Just like, oh shit. Like, there's no way he didn't walk into the very first room he auditioned in and people were like, uh-oh, who's this? What's happening?
Exactly.
Send everyone else home.
I feel so bad that I was never centered him as a hot guy before. He deserved it. He deserves it.
I'll tell you something. He was happy to have you be a late adopter.
Yeah. Good.
Totally happy.
Glad to hear it.
Okay. Biggest thing that wasn't allowed in that you wish had been allowed in?
The garage.
Even if it turned out to be a nothing burger, which I don't think that it would be.
Yeah.
Just to know. Just to have it.
And I don't understand why the investigator couldn't answer questions about it when that was what he did.
It's so bizarre.
So bizarre.
That was a
very, very strange exclusion by Bev, and I'm sure we will find out what they learned. I'm sure we will, because they're all giving all these interviews. But like, I really wish it had come out in the trial. I think it would have been a bombshell.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then biggest thing that was allowed in that you wish wouldn't have been allowed in?
The clips of Karen Read from television.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean,
agreed.
It was fair play to let them in. I'm not saying it wasn't fair.
I mean, it was, but
It's
in that sort
before.
of experimental way that's like,
Right.
I guess I can't say that it isn't fair game, but it's just, again,
Right.
feels like, really?
It feels like in other trials, the jury would have gotten all the footage.
Well, that's the thing. It's fair game if you can watch all of it in context. It doesn't feel like fair game if you can just pick and choose, like a journalist who's like, I've decided I want this person to come off as a racist, whether they are or not.
Exactly.
And just like, snip it to your desire. Okay. Person you would most like to coach your child's sports team?
Oh, Alessi.
Yeah.
Like, no, not even a contest. Like, he's a great dad. Like, his daughter tweets about him all the time. He's a great dad.
So delightful.
Yeah,
so delightful.
I love him. He would explain everything very well to the children.
For sure, without talking down to them. Okay. And then most unexpected talent. I guess I had someone specific in mind when I wrote this, but most unexpected talent you didn't think this person would have or that they would bring to the table.
Yuri Buchanan's acting abilities.
Exactly.
I loved that.
Agreed.
It made me a softie on Buchanan, even though I know he's a horrible cop. Like,
sometimes that's all it takes, just to like a pinch of weird humanity that you just didn't expect to see in an environment that has caused them to portray themselves in a very, very specific,
it was adorable.
Television way.
It was so funny, and yeah, what a bang!
Yeah, so
Kevin can't stop saying the word bang now. That's like his new favorite word. He's like, we should bang later. I'm like, we should? We should,
so
Higgins?
Violent.
We really should? Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah. Well, great answers. Those were
that was
fantastic
incredible.
Answers.
And
that's our little yearbook. Now you could see the pictures of most likely to.
I learned something about myself.
Yeah.
You took me on a journey about the case, but really, I was able to reach into myself and learn something. So
you are the person who knows this case better than anyone I can think of.
I used to think that like, oh, I have to look at something Turtle Boy wrote or look at the court. You know, I have to go on Reddit and look for that day in court and like remind myself of something. I don't have to do that anymore. Like
It's just in there.
It's all in there. I know the key cycle number 1162-2. I know that Trooper Paul actually originally testified around 1164. Like I know it's all in there, and I probably, unlike the Chinese I took in college, I will probably remember it for the rest of my life.
That was my next question. My next question was, are you the kind of person who has that memory for certain things and then it gets, because I can be like that because you sort of have to be if you're learning lines or if you're suddenly immersed in this brand new project. And to a certain extent, all journalists do as well, right? You suddenly become a temporary expert in this thing that you're deep diving.
I'm an excellent temporary expert. I'm a horrible long-term expert.
That was my question. Is like, I can, there will be things that I feel like I'll retain forever. And then a year from now, I'll be like, oh man, I knew this.
Yeah. This is what they call a generational legal case. And it's so singular. And the free Karen Read or anti-cop t-shirt plus the MAGA hat, adds a whole other layer. We were just talking about this in the review that we just taped about somebody who ran for office, and he was, very progressive in this very conservative place. And the way that he got people to elect him and listen to the prison reform he wanted to do was saying, do you know how much this is costing you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's some of that in this case. There's First Amendment stuff. Like, it's, to me, generational. I can't imagine ever being into something as much as I've been into this, and will continue to be into it as the civil trial goes on, as the civil case goes on. But I'll probably remember these details for the rest of my life. They're burned in my brain.
Okay, I want to meet back here with you in 365 days.
Let's do it. And maybe we'll have something to say about the feds at that point.
Well, for sure that, and perhaps a civil case as well.
Yeah.
So,
can't wait.
God, I really hope she just gets to take a frickin' break.
I heard a rumor, and I wouldn't be surprised if it were true, given what she did for work. But I heard a rumor that she has an umbrella policy, or had an umbrella policy at the time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Of John O'Keefe's death. And if that is the case, that would cover her in a civil lawsuit, maybe.
That's really interesting.
That would be helpful. But if she does have an umbrella policy, then she's got a whole other group of lawyers who are going to be working on this case.
Oh God, whose own self-interest of their own policy is.
Well, that's the restaurants active. The restaurants are so lawyered up because of their insurance. Like the restaurants' responses to that lawsuit were so immediate and strong. And I'm like, an insurance company lawyer wrote that 100%. So.
And then it's just more pain for the O'Keefes. It's like, if that doesn't, if it has the same result, then it's like you feel stung and horrible and confused and shattered twice.
Right.
And
people, think that, they got gratification with OJ's civil case loss. This is not evenly divided, this Karen Read thing. So like 10 or 15% of people will be really gratified if she loses in the civil case. The bottom line is she's still free. She's still walking around.
No, for sure.
Anyway.
For sure.
Janet,
this
Varney,
is so much fun.
You are incredible as a guest. You brought so much to the table, and I loved talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me on the Readathon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Partners in Crime Media.